Hello, we're here to bring our ideas about tomorrow, to discuss the need to empower families to approach mental health positively, making the necessity for our professional, therapeutic mental health support almost obsolete.
We want to see a tomorrow without the need for reactive support to crises, but preemptive action, which provides individuals, whether adult or child, the means to support their own mental health and well-being.
Starting with the way we support our children's mental health and the way we support our own mental health as well. My name is Caroline. I'm a youth and family community worker, and I am the owner of the Peely Parlour project, which is a community interest company that provides guidance, products and resources to help support the emotional needs of children through play. I studied at the University of Glamorgam in 2013, graduating with a degree in Childhood and Youth Studies and a Master's in Play and Therapeutic Play.
I'm Kate and I'm a teacher, and I have a Postgraduate Diploma in Specific Learning Difficulties from the University of South Wales. I've been teaching for 11 years. I'm also one of the founding members of Inspirational Futures Well-being Support. We are a social enterprise developed to support children, families and teachers' mental health and well-being.
My name is Louise. I studied the Masters in Play Therapy at Treforest from 2015 to 2017, and in 2017 I attended the USW Freelancer Academy, which funded my first website after a successful pitch to experts. Before this I was a teacher, youth worker, advocate, family support worker and many other roles in a vast range of settings to help support vulnerable families. I now work with agencies and in private practice to support families and children with their mental health through providing play therapy, filial play and teaching and training support. We met through our connection within the co-working community Welsh ICE and discovered that we had a shared passion and interest for supporting children's emotional and mental health and well-being. Between us, we have over 35 years personal and professional experience and believe this cumulative practical and academic experience stands us in good stead to consider what a tomorrow could be like for families.
So what is the current challenge that needs consideration? Growing up today, children and young people are having to navigate a very complex, ever-changing and demanding world, and this can have a significant impact on their well-being. Young Minds Children's Mental Health Charity estimates that there are 3 children in every classroom that suffer with a diagnosable mental health condition. This rises to 1 in 4 when we include emotional distress. Young Minds also estimated that 3 in 4 children with a diagnosable mental health condition do not get access to the support that they need. The emotional distress that everyone is feeling has been amplified as a result of the current pandemic. Childline reported that between April 2020 to December 2020, there was over 50,000 counselling sessions related to children's emotional health. The majority of counselling sessions for children aged 11 years and under increased by 16% during this time, and the average number of counselling sessions for children of all ages increased by 10% in this time. Providing timely support for children is vital in order to help reduce risk factors and increase protective factors. We must learn to look after our mental health, just like we learn to look after our physical health.
Historically, formal education of mental health and well-being has always tended to take a bit of a back seat within the classroom. PSE, or personal and social education, has often been used as afterthought or filler activities. Staff are aware of the importance of improving and addressing mental health and well-being. However, with multiple other classroom commitments, it's very difficult to fit it all in. The actual time a child spends within the classroom is surprisingly low. So how many hours does a teacher have to spend with their child in their professional capacity? We can work it out. If you consider a child is asleep for 8 hours a day and awake for 16 hours a day, that equates to just short of 6,000 hours a year that they are awake. The average child is in school for 6 hours a day, 190 days of the year, just over 1,000 hours. Therefore, children are in the classroom less than 20% of a year. Therefore, 80% of a child's time is spent out of the classroom, mainly at home, away from professional support. It's imperative then that we provide and model the skills needed to prepare children to be mentally healthy to move through life. So how do we get parents to bridge the gap between emotional learning from school to home? No one enters the role of parent or carer with a how-to guide or a step-by-step. We often spend more time learning how to drive a car than we do learning how to become a parent and support the emotional development of a child. We need to be supporting parents and carers to be using a proportion of that 80% at home to be intentionally focusing on family well-being and dedicating time to continually addressing those skills of mental health and well-being. Additionally, when issues arise within families where they need help with mental health support, knowing where to access support and receiving it in a timely manner isn't always straightforward.
One of the current challenges facing family are the tough restrictions that are placed upon professional support. Families often have to jump through hoops to access professional support services, and these hoops can change and disappear. For example, I worked with a family who were told that their child's disability was not severe enough to access a disability social worker, but that they were in the wrong geographical region to access the level of support before that stage. Roles and funding can change, which affects both statutory and third sector provision. This can lead families who are desperate for support not wanting to ask for fear of rejection and/or time-limited support. This is compounded even further when we think about the way that we ask our families to get support. For example, with my own child, I currently have an 8-page form to complete, and there is no other alternative accessibility option to do so. Imagine if I was a parent who has a lower level of literacy or indeed was scared of support services because of my previous experiences. As Caroline has said, there are only 25% of children accessing professional support who need it. When we consider the NHS provision of child and adolescent mental health services, or CAMS as it's known, we know that there is due to be a waiting list of 26 weeks or less. What's happening at the moment is that it can take up to 42 weeks from that point to get relevant support for the child or family in question. So if a family who really needs the support is waiting up to 18 months once they have taken that brave step of going to get the support, this can be detrimental to the whole family unit. When we consider the quote that Dr. Phil brings of the fact that a mother is only as happy as her saddest child, this can be a whole family unit waiting on tenterhooks for a diagnosis or a label or some further support. As play therapists, we don't diagnose, but we work with the cluster of symptoms that comes within the sum of a child. For some support services, there needs to be a diagnosis for any support to start. Another challenge is the intention, motivation and desire for long-lasting change. The nature of some support services being funded means that they have to prove that change has occurred. In order to do this, they ask for the families and consult with them to find out what has changed, if anything. Due to families wanting to please the practitioners, quite often positive changes are reported, but maybe families don't know how to apply the skills they've learned into future situations. Perhaps positive change has occurred, but what we see and experience is that lots of families will suddenly bring you a whole lot more concerns to work with when they know that the support is due to end. This is the case even more when you're working with agencies that have time-limited sessions to offer families. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is to step back from the very beginning of the work, reminding the families that they have strengths to bring and that we are there to supplement them and not replace them.
So how can we ensure that tomorrow looks different? We need to use 20% of a child's time within the classroom to fill them with many skills and abilities to care for their own mental health from the very first moment that we can. As soon as possible, we need to introduce children to mindfulness, positive self-talk and positive language, understanding and dealing with strong emotions, understanding the importance of healthy relationships, as well as the importance of physical and mental health. Because if a child can do advanced maths, speak 3 languages and receive top grades, but can't manage their emotions, resolve conflicts or handle stress, none of the rest of it is really going to matter. Fortunately, within Wales, we have a new curriculum which is due to be implemented fully in 2022. Health and well-being is now one of the main areas of learning experience within the new curriculum. Therefore, giving health and well-being as much weighting as all of the other topics, schools are a crucial environment for promoting emotional well-being and resilience, but we must also empower parents and carers to support emotional well-being as well. We need to support them with the vocabulary and skills to discuss uncomfortable emotions, both at home and in school. Establishing a consistent dialogue where making mistakes and facing challenges is natural and encouraged, and asking for support is met with open arms.
As always, one of the best ways to change it tomorrow is to look to the past and see what has worked before. I remember my dad telling me how city planners would plan paths, looking to see the ones that had been trod before when there were none there in the first place. When you look to the animal kingdom, you see that play naturally gives animals the chance to learn how to protect and preserve themselves. Similarly, as humans, play serves a social, emotional and intellectual purpose. If, as Kate says, 80% of the time a child has is spent in the home environment, we need to hone in and tune into their natural language of play. By doing this, we ensure that our child's and our own neural pathways are primed to seek healthy, positive and reciprocal connections. There's a reason why Wales chose to make the foundation phase based on play. So how else do we change our tomorrow? As discussed previously, we need to be aware of the families accessing the service. Is our service accessible? Best practice shows that if we include service users or families from the very start of our interactions and support, during and after the work is finished, we will improve our services. This can look like pupils interviewing teachers, video referrals being made, and children setting therapeutic goals with their families and other professionals involved. A specialist play therapy training, child-parent relationship therapy, put forward by Landreth and Bratton, trains the carers in play therapy skills. By doing this, they become co-therapists and they're able to become therapeutic agents of change. My experience over the past 6 years as a specialist children's counsellor shows me that the most lasting change that takes place is that when the families are fully involved. This doesn't mean telling the child what to do in a session, but it means supporting and scaffolding what they are doing and how the therapy will take place. This is because families should and could always be with the child, whereas we get to work with a child for a minimum of 12 sessions once a week. That's about 2% of their school week when they're able to be in school, of course. We need to empower families with the mindset to approach mental health positively, making the necessity for our support almost obsolete.
We all need to address the way in which we approach mental health, and we need to take a systemic approach. Everyone needs to be a champion of mental health, from teachers, practitioners, to families and children. We must work with families, not for families. We need families to trust their own solutions and be empowered to sustain positive long-term change. When children are emotionally dysregulated, we often tell them to calm down, but children aren't born with the skills to be able to calm down and regulate their emotions naturally. This is something we have to teach them. Even as adults, we find this hard, so we have to ensure that we provide children with ample opportunities to refine these skills. We must also work to change attitudes. We must help families and teachers to look past what is often classed as challenging behaviours. These are often exhibited as aggressive behaviours, withdrawn behaviours, attention-seeking behaviours, or defiant behaviours. But these are often masking an unmet need. So instead of parents and teachers automatically thinking, I need to discipline this child, they're kicking off. Instead they think, I wonder what this child is trying to communicate to me. It's also important to take a preemptive approach instead of a reactive approach. Instead of supporting families at the point of crisis, we need to provide them with the skills, tools and confidence to be able to support themselves before the point of a crisis. A preemptive approach has been proven powerful and has many recognised benefits. Leading organisations like the Marie Curie Cancer Charity have integrated pre-bereavement support into their everyday practice. If we do not empower families with this preemptive, systemic approach, then we will see a rise in referral waiting times and ultimately a rise in the number of young people who are suffering with mental health conditions.
Thank you for listening to our Vision for Tomorrow, where we believe well-being is a central component of everyday life.
Where attitudes to emotional health are preemptive rather than reactive. Where well-being is the responsibility for every member of society.
Where families are empowered to build upon their existing strengths and take control of their own well-being moving forward. In order to change tomorrow, we have to act today. Thank you very much for listening.